What is up, guys? Welcome back to yet another brand new Major Ben gaming video here today. Today we're going to be talking about Microsoft accusing Sony of blocking games from Game Pass. Now, I'm a little bit late to this, but I still want to talk about it because I think it's something that's crucial what's going on in the gaming industry right now, and I think it's important that we talk about it. You are seeing, by the way, Spider-Man native 4K ultra settings gameplay in the background, so I hope you enjoy that. It's a gorgeous looking game running on my RTX 3080. So that's really cool. The ray tracing features aren't running on this though because it's just too much for my RTX 3080 to handle, but I will be getting a 4090 when those are released, and I cannot wait to get my hands on those. So without further ado, let's get into this. Please do consider subscribing as well if you do enjoy the video, and leave a like. It would really help me out. So last week, Microsoft argued to Brazilian regulators that Call of Duty was not an essential game series, while Sony actually protested that it was. In the latest episode of the Activision Blizzard acquisition drama going down in Brazil, Microsoft accused the PlayStation manufacturer of trying to inhibit growth of Game Pass. Microsoft has actually been trying to convince regulatory agencies around the world that its acquisition of Activision Blizzard is not unfair to its competitors within the gaming industry. Now, as spotted by The Verge, it's claiming that Sony pays developers not to put their games on Xbox makers' subscription service. Microsoft's ability to continue expanding Game Pass has been hampered by Sony's desire to inhibit such growth, Microsoft claimed in an August 9 filing. Sony pays for blocking rights to prevent developers from adding content to Game Pass and other competing subscription services. Platform exclusivity deals are something that has always been around in the gaming industry, and it's ambiguous whether this refers to a clause that might prevent games from appearing on Xbox service during its exclusivity period, or stricter terms like permanently. A document relating to PlayStation exclusivity came out of the Capcom leaks, and page 3 indicates that exclusives should or could not appear on rivals to PlayStation subscription services. These include Google Stadia, Game Pass, and similar services. Kotaku reached out to both Microsoft and Sony, but did not receive responses by the time of publication. Sony was previously critical of Microsoft's hold on the gaming market. Just last week, the console manufacturer argued to CADE that Call of Duty was an essential game and that competitors would not be able to rival it. Microsoft disagrees, and in this latest filing, they basically lay out some examples. I can't read today. What's going on? Of Sony's predilection for exclusivity regarding their big name releases. Ever since someone posted translations of the Administrative Council for Economic Defense (CADE) proceedings on Reset Era, gamers have been speculating whether or not the publishers' complaints hold water. It's a sensitive topic because the acquisition of Activision Blizzard will undoubtedly affect the gaming ecosystem in seismic ways. But neither platform holders' hands are clean. After the Microsoft acquisition of the Call of Duty publisher was announced, Sony had pursued its own major acquisition of Bungie, which makes Destiny 2, as we all know. But I just want to have a little talk about this, and I think it's something that's important to talk about because obviously these subscription services are gradually growing more and more. It's something that we're going to see, much like the film industry with Netflix and Disney Plus and Amazon and all that lot. Those things are what are dominating the industries right now. And these acquisitions from either side are something that's going to be going ahead from now on. It's something that's just going to be in the gaming industry. You are going to find Microsoft doing the same thing as what Sony's doing right now. Personally, I don't think it's right. I think the best thing is for everyone to be able to play every game, hence why Sony even has their own games coming out on the PC platform. I don't see why they would want to block it coming to Game Pass, which, Game Pass is also on the PC platform. But you got to think, at the same time, PlayStation are going to want this game on their system as well, on their own subscription service that's very similar to Game Pass. You know, the PlayStation's Plus new tiers that they've got out, you know, they're going to want to have those games there too. And Sony are probably going to be, or Microsoft are going to have to start doing the same thing back with Sony, which is a shame because, again, it's the best way is everyone playing the games together. But to talk about the Call of Duty stuff a little bit here as well, personally, I agree with what Sony is saying here. I'm not a Sony fanboy, guys. In fact, you can see on my channel, I mostly favor Xbox and definitely PC as my personal way of playing. But I kind of agree with Sony. There is no way that Microsoft or that Sony, sorry, can suddenly come up with a competing game to Call of Duty. There is no way that there can be a match to Call of Duty. You know, Battlefield has died gradually more and more. It's never been a complete comparison match to Call of Duty. And even so, even when it was doing well, it wouldn't even reach near the sales figures of something like the Call of Duty franchise. So, you know, there's no way that they can suddenly come up with a game that's going to do as well as, you know, the likes of Call of Duty. That's just not going to happen. But at the same time, on Microsoft's side, that's not their problem. They've bought them, they own it. And Sony, at the end of the day, have missed out. They've done the same with Destiny 2. It's unlikely that anyone can create something similar to that. Not as on a large scale as obviously the Call of Duty franchise, but yeah, it's something that's just happened now, and Sony needs to sort of get over it there. But I do agree with them. They will not be able to compete with a similar franchise to Call of Duty. That franchise is loved by so many people. I feel very strongly for any Sony people watching that the games will still come to the Sony platform, because that amount of money is huge for Microsoft. They're not going to want to miss out on all the money that they'll be getting from PlayStation people. You know, it's the best-selling PlayStation game every year is Call of Duty. It's always on top of the charts. It's too much to miss out. You know, from Microsoft's point of view, they want all that money coming into their own pocket. So that's definitely going to happen. I can't see a way of that not happening. And same with Warzone. You know, they're not going to want to limit the Warzone player base to just an Xbox consoles and PC. That just would not work out. It's just that's not going to happen. There needs to be as many people playing the game as possible, especially like situations like we're in at the moment. I jumped into Warzone again recently, and the game has dried up a ton since I was playing it, you know, within the end of the first year, and when we had the start of the new map, even like the game has dried out a lot. And imagine that with all the less Sony players, the amount of people you team up with on there that are on the Sony consoles is insane. It's an absolute ton of people. So they're not going to limit that just to one console and the PC. There's not enough people to keep that going. But yeah, I mean, this is a concern for everybody. In my point of view, it sucks because I have Game Pass on PC as well. I use it for games and for obviously for games, for experiencing new games. I was meant to say, there's been so many titles that I've played just to test out because they're free on Game Pass, and have turned out to really, really enjoy them. And then, they're in my favorite kind of games, and I've actually gone to buy them on the market. So if Sony are paying for games not to be on the platform, from my point of view, it's just like it's a little bit disappointing from a customer of Game Pass, thinking, well, think what games we could have had on this service, and that Sony's out there paying to not allow them to be on this service. And as a Game Pass customer, I'm sort of thinking, well, hang on a minute, what is there a limit to what Sony can keep paying for? How much money are these guys paying? It raises questions about how much money Game Pass is paying the people for Sony to then pay them more, apparently, just to keep it off Game Pass. Surely the Game Pass the figure should be high enough to prevent people even considering taking another fee to not put it on Game Pass and not have their game out there to be experienced by tons of other people. So I don't know. It raises a lot of questions. It is something that's going to happen, and I'm sure Microsoft will start doing it back to Sony. And Sony at the same time need to be very careful, because the amount of money that Microsoft has compared to Sony is, tenfold more. It's so much more. Microsoft have tons and tons of money compared to what Sony does, and if they're going to start doing stuff like this to anger Microsoft and keep things off of their platform, if Microsoft turns around and decides to do the exact same thing, it's going to be a lot worse for Sony. They're going to have a lot more money. They're going to be able to compete a lot better in these deals if they want to, and restrict even more games coming to the Sony platform other than just Call of Duty and obviously all the Bethesda games. So that's another thing. We know obviously the Bethesda games aren't going to be coming to PlayStation. You're not going to be getting Starfield on PlayStation. I don't believe they'll do the same with Call of Duty, but you know, this just shows the amount of money they've got. Obviously, Sony was able to buy Destiny, but yeah, they're not going to compete in terms of keeping stuff off a platform with the amount of money that they're pushing. So it's interesting. We'll have to see what happens. I think that's it. That's all I wanted to talk about here, but it's very, very interesting to see what's happening. Obviously, Sony is going to grow their amount of money that they're going to be having because they're obviously putting games on PC, so they're going to grow their profits a lot more. So that's going to be, you know, good to see. So we'll have to see what happens. That's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please do consider leaving a like and subscribing, and I'll see you in future videos. Bye bye for now.